Welcome to Zero to Hero, the series where we teach you how to teach yourself how to play Pokemon VGC, from the basics to the complex. Today's topic is Pokemon roles, specifically offensive Pokemon. Each Pokemon on a team has a role to fill. It may be tempting to fill your team with 6 Pokemon that all deal a lot of damage. After all, the goal is to knock out all of your opponent's Pokemon. However, there's much more nuance to good team building than that. Each Pokemon has strengths and weaknesses. One part of this is a Pokemon's type. If I have a fire Pokemon, I would likely want other Pokemon on my team that resist ground, rock, and water moves. However, more than just typing, each Pokemon has a role to fill. Similar to types, each role has strengths and weaknesses that can be covered by other Pokemon on your team. Unlike types, roles are not a game mechanic and are more fluid. They're used for generalization to get an idea of how Pokemon function. Many Pokemon can fill different roles depending on how they're built, and some Pokemon can fill more than one role at a time. We'll go over different Pokemon roles, what the purpose of the role is, how it functions, what its weaknesses are, and some top Pokemon that personify those roles well. As in many games, there are 3 general roles that can be further broken down: offense, defense, and support. Since this is a large topic, it will be split into 3 parts. Part 1 today covers offensive Pokemon roles, and parts 2 and 3 will cover defensive roles and supportive roles. Offensive Pokemon deal lots of damage, in many cases enough to knock out other Pokemon in one hit. As a trade-off for such high damage output, offensive Pokemon are often frail and easy to knock out. Many strong offensive Pokemon are very fast, so they can take out their opponent before they can attack. Offensive Pokemon tend to struggle if they find themselves moving last. Offensive Pokemon can be further broken down into multiple subcategories. Physical threats. These Pokemon have high attack stats and usually good offensive typing to accentuate their stab moves. Extremely hard-hitting single-target moves like Wicked Blow from Urshifu or Ivy Cudgel from Ogerpon keep opponents on their toes, trying to avoid eating these hits even neutrally. Spread moves like Earthquake or Rock Slide also deal good damage to both opponents, and as mentioned, have good offensive types. These Pokemon often have middling to high speed, and really benefit from Tailwind or other forms of speed control. They're very weak to being burnt, and are weak to Intimidate, as an opponent switching in multiple times can really hamper their damage output. Special threats. These Pokemon are similar to physical threats in many ways, but they have high special attack, and they also often have good offensive type. Pokemon like Goldengo, Fluttermane, and Chi-Yu have extremely high special attack stats and strong spread moves with Make It Rain, Dazzling Gleam, or Heat Wave. Landorus and Gilmora have strong single target damage with a plethora of damage boosts like Life Orb and Sheer Force, or Meteor Beam and Power Herb. They usually have middling to high speed, and also love to have speed control on their side. They're often more consistent than physical threats due to not being weak to Intimidate. However, the item Assault Vest increases a Pokemon's special defense, so any one of your opponent's Pokemon could be holding this item, which would slow these attackers down. They're also generally more frail than physical threats. Mixed attackers. These Pokemon are quite rare as of recent formats, but they like to utilize both physical and special moves on their moveset. They're typically physical attackers that still have decent special attack, and benefit from a certain type of coverage they can only get from special moves. Or after being hit with Intimidate, they can still dish out some decent damage using special attacks. Their main weakness is that they do less damage than they would if they were fully invested in one attacking stat. Fast attackers. These Pokemon's defining feature is their wicked speed stats. In the past, they typically had middling to high attacking stats, but as of Scarlet and Violet, some of these Pokemon hit incredibly hard as well. These Pokemon sometimes forego needing extra speed control on their team, and can still outspeed other Pokemon in Tailwind. Booster Energy, Iron Bundle, Fluttermane, or Roaring Moon hit crazy speed stats. Chien-Pao and Dragapult are also very fast, and still hit hard. These Pokemon, however, are all very frail, and benefit from items like the Focus Sash. Since their main strength is speed, when this is circumvented with strong speed control or Trick Room, they essentially become frail and slow, making them quite weak. Slow attackers. In contrast to fast attackers, these Pokemon typically have good to strong bulk, very high damage output, but very low speed. Typically, they're ran under Trick Room, which inverts the speed order for 5 turns when used. This allows these Pokemon to essentially be somewhat bulky, powerful offensively, and fast. Physical or special, under Trick Room, these Pokemon are incredibly threatening. Their main weakness is that they are reliant on Trick Room. If they fail to set it up, or if they're unable to output enough damage before Trick Room expires, they'll find themselves in a pinch. Since they're so slow, most Pokemon outspeed them, and they can be doubled up to be taken out before moving. Weather abusers. These Pokemon strongly benefit from weather conditions. Some power up their stab moves like Kingdra and Torkoal. Others use move-specific weather boosts like Thunder Zapdos, Bleak Wind Storm Tornadus, and Electroshot Archaludon. Other Pokemon get stat boosts from the weather, Abilities like Swift Swim, Sand Rush, and Photosynthesis all increase stats. Pokemon that are strong weather abusers often benefit from more than one of these bonuses. Kingdra, for example, in the rain, gets doubled speed from Swift Swim and powered up water moves. The weakness of weather abusers is that they're sometimes reliant on their weather condition, so if they lose their weather either by a different one being set or its turn count running out, they're often quite middling. Setup Pokemon. These Pokemon love to spend at least one turn or more setting up to take over a game on their own. Pokemon like Volcarona, Goldengo, and King Gambit really benefit from moves like Quiver Dance, Nasty Plot, and Swords Dance. Pokemon like Palafin and Annihilate set up in more unconventional ways. Palafin needs to switch out for a big stat boost, and Annihilate needs to get hit a few times to increase its Rage Fist damage. Either way, when these Pokemon are set up, they're often unstoppable. Their main weakness is being taken out before they can set up, or having their boosts removed by moves like Haze or being forced to switch out. Priority Sweepers. These Pokemon have strong offensive stats and access to strong priority moves. In Scarlet and Violet, Terastallization, new moves, and the Treasure of Ruin have really pushed this form of offense forward. Pokemon pairings like Dragonite and Chien-Pao with Extreme Speed and Sucker Punch is very strong. Dragonite ran with Terra Normal in a choice band, along with Chien-Pao's ability, creates a priority move with damage that is frankly unfair. Pokemon like King Gambit have a very strong Sucker Punch, especially with a damage boost from Defiant or Supreme Overlord. And Pokemon like Raging Bolt also have a strong priority move in the form of Thunderclap. This form of offense is so strong because it allows the user to move first, regardless of their speed stat, speed control, or trick room. The main weakness is that some of these moves are conditional or have immunities, like Sucker Punch failing if the target is not attacking, and Extreme Speed's a normal type, preventing it from hitting ghost types. Additionally, Pokemon like Farigiraf and Indeedee can stop priority moves with their abilities, and that can shut down some of these strategies. Choice attackers. Lastly, in the offense category are Pokemon that use choice items. Fast attackers like Fluttermane or Pokemon with priority moves like Dragonite sometimes use Choice Specs or Choice Band to not only have strong speed, but also get a 50% damage boost, making them very threatening. Slower strong attackers like Urshifu and Great Tusk sometimes use Choice Scarf to combo their heavy-hitting attacks with a 50% speed boost. While Pokemon with these items are very strong, they have a significant downside, being they're unable to change moves unless they switch out. If they lock themselves into a move, and your opponent switches into a resist or an immunity, their offensive potential is greatly reduced. Item choices for many offensive Pokemon are taken from the same pool of items. To maximize damage output, Life Orb is very common. It gives a significant damage boost at the cost of some HP, which is not a big issue for frailer Pokemon, since they don't rely on their survivability anyways. Choice Band and Specs, as mentioned, are useful for big damage boosts to accentuate hard hitters, or patch up a fast Pokemon's middling offensive stat. Physical attackers often run the Clear Amulet to prevent attack drops from Intimidate, or Lumberry can be used to cure burn. Type boosters like Mystic Water and Charcoal are seen on Pokemon that really only use their stab type for damage and allows them to keep survivability and still switch moves. Focus Sash is also common to allow frail Pokemon to eat a hit and still get at least one more hit in after. Setup Pokemon sometimes use defensive items like Citrus Berry or Leftovers to let them stick around longer to get their setup off. Those are the basic offensive Pokemon roles. Keep your eyes peeled for parts 2 and 3 to go over defensive and supportive Pokemon. Make sure to subscribe, and thanks for watching.